Everybody in Colombia was listening to hip hop, but and I didn't know what were they saying. So I was like, if this is possible with English, what is not possible with Spanish? You know, I knew it since the beginning that we were gonna make it. We were like, we gotta make the statement of the Latino culture. But there's a lot of guys that paved the way for us. Daddy Yankee, Tego Calderon, Wisin y Yandel, Don Omar. This. It's not that I made it. It's that they paved the way, and then, the thing that was hard for me is that I wasn't from Puerto Rico.
Right.
It's kind of like Drake, the fact that it's a guy from Canada.
Right, and hip hop started here in America.
Exactly. It's kind of like the same story.
So I want to say this, right? Real quick. When you are so dope at what you do, people will think you're from the original spot than where you're honestly from. Because I honestly thought he was Puerto Rican for the longest.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Because of his style, because reggaeton came from Puerto Rico. And who he was collaborating with, because him and Bad Bunny were like neck and neck. So I'm like, oh, you gotta be Puerto Rican, right? And then when I found out where he's from, I'm like, oh, but the great thing is when you are so dope at it, we don't question, oh, well, are you from the original spot where it's made? Same thing with how hip hop was started. No one's like, yo, are you from New York? Then you can't rap, I don't think people, besides accents, right? Because like we could clearly tell Atlanta rap. We could clearly tell West Coast rap because of different styles, right? And then when we look at, because he mentioned Drake, if Drake didn't necessarily say where he's from, I don't know if I would say he's instantly from Canada. I don't know how Canada people sound anyway. Shout out to Canada. No shade.
Right.
I don't know how y'all people sound. Like, do you have an accent? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I don't feel like Drake does. I feel like he's mastered his craft so much that we don't question if he belongs. I think J Balvin has mastered his craft that we don't question where he's from. So from a lesson standpoint, like, have you mastered it so much that we don't question if you belong in this category or not, right? If you truly have embodied what has already been placed there, right? And put your own twist to it and put your own kind of vibe to it, you are now either blending in or creating a whole new vibe that no one's going to question you about.
Yeah.
No one is going to. And so first I wanted to address that too. I love how when it comes to music, we don't necessarily have to understand what is being said. It's about the melody, it's about the energy, it's about the feeling. We're reciting Spanish lyrics and we don't even know what it means. They're reciting English lyrics and they don't even know what it means. Prime example. Shout out to Bone Thugs and Harmonies. I swear I do so many shout outs. I don't know why. I don't know none of these people. Shout out to Bone Thugs and Harmony because I ain't know a word. I almost cursed. Look at me. I didn't even know a word from that Crossroads song. And if you did, you were a true fan. But when you first heard Crossroads, no one knew what that was. And yet everybody was harmonizing with it. Everybody, like, no. What did they say? What did they say?
Right.
But they had the stadiums and arenas and everything packed because of the feeling and the vibe, right? So music has such a energy and a worldwide effect that if you play it right, it truly doesn't matter where you're from or what language you speak, they're going to vibe to it. What I love about him is that he strategically knew how to cross over. My man
Yeah.
did a song with Beyonce. You're done. I mean, what more do you need to
Yeah.
do? You are officially a superstar. Officially.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. To have those contacts. I think when you listen to the clip, for the most part, you can make sense of it. For me, I really found it to be super inspirational. And the reason why is, like, you really got to ask yourself this question when you think about what they just did. Do you have enough confidence in what you're pursuing that it's going to strike the hearts of other people, to make it a global thing, even with the people who don't speak your language?
Right.
That's I think there are so many of us who are so about only serving people who look like us, or who believe that, oh, well, if I'm black, I'm only going to be accepted in the black community and the white community is not going to accept me. Or if I'm Middle Eastern or I'm Muslim and I'm Arab, then there's no way the Latin community is going to accept me. I only got to go to Muslims and Arabs, or otherwise I'm not going to succeed.
Right.
So here's somebody who from the very start, who could have, and he was asked this during the documentary, and they asked him like, yo, why didn't you switch over, or was that ever a concern for you? He said, no, like, I actually didn't want to sell out. I wanted to keep as much of my culture and my country on the forefront of my brand and of my music, because I knew we were going to be, a global kind of brand, or globally accepted. So what he says here is like, he saw it happen with hip hop music in Latin America, then why couldn't it be done the other way? And although like it sounds like, oh, okay, that makes sense, there's still a level of belief that you got to have behind your idea to be like, nope, I'm going to go in a completely different part of the world or a different culture or community, and I know I'm going to be accepted because of the vibe and the energy that I'm going to give them. That's what he was bringing to the table. And that's kind of the question that I'm posing to our listeners, like, yo, do you have that confidence in what you're doing, that you're creating something so just organic and so dynamic and so incredible that you can take it into a different culture and believe that people eventually are going to love it? Because it's true. Like, I remember growing up, when you listen to any of the radio stations in New York, you never heard any music other than, what they just played: hip hop, rap, R&B, pop music, whatever it is, unless you went to a particular, a different station. If you went there, of course, there were Spanish and Latin radio stations that you would go to that to listen to. And only for the most part, you would know them if you had friends of Latin descent. That's the only way you would know about them. But now it is super common to be listening to Hot 97, which is like the hip hop station here in New York, or Z100, which is the pop station also in New York. And to also hear a J Balvin or a Bad Bunny or another one of them, and you're like, what? Like, that's crazy. So the fact that you had these people at the forefront of the whole idea and the music pushing this so it can be a global sensation, I really think that's so dope. And that's something that we should find inspiration in, and really start gaining the confidence and also the desire to say, yo, let me work with people who are not like me. Like, I want to know what that learning experience is like, me embracing their culture and also introducing them to mine. Of course, there's a lot of business benefits from it, because, you're going to gain more customers, the whole nine. But just think about just the pure black and white concept of that, which I think there's a lot to learn from. So just as I was listening to that, Nick, I'm like, man, there's a lot of inspiration from that, because it gives us that tunnel vision. And I get it. Like, you got to know your audience, you got to know your niche. But at the bare minimum, I'm telling people, you just have the belief that you're going to stretch beyond, just people who are like you.
That's good. Now, of course, I had to get a clip of him, of how he feels about social media. You know what I mean? How he feels about social media. I think I'm always curious about artists and how they handle the public on social media and how they live their lifestyle. So I found the clip.
I think to have two faces is too heavy, to be walking in the world. Like, I'm the same guy that you see on Instagram. I'm the same guy that you see me here. And it's all about being real. Like, sometimes even in the Instagram or on the social medias, I'm like, it's not a good day. Yeah. It happens, maybe it's not a good day right now, but I show them that I don't have a perfect life. And I don't wish to have a perfect life.
Shout out to Lewis Howes. That came from his podcast. But let me go in on this. So I'm super big on it's draining and almost expensive to be two different types of people. Expensive whether you are spending your money on a particular lifestyle or spending your time, which you cannot get back, right? I don't truly understand why people see a blank canvas when it comes to social media and feel like they have to live or show a different lifestyle than what they truly have. And is it because maybe you do not like your own life? Is it maybe because other people's lives look so much better, so let me emulate that to see how that feels, or at least portray that's what I'm living? It's a lot of questions that I have of why people do it, but when you are very secure about the ups and downs of your own life and understanding that this is a real life situation, that people go through this, and people should see the highs and the lows, and to understand that, hey, I too go through bad days. I too didn't feel like getting up out of bed. And you know what? It's how you go about that and how do you tackle that situation head on than necessarily try to always paint a perfect picture for people who don't really care. And I'm super big on, like, why are you trying to impress? And I have this whole saying, but I'm not going to say it. There's 3 F's. I think I've said it on the podcast before.
You gave us the idea. Yeah, yes. Please leave them off.
3 F's, right? Go research what that means, right? But truly, if people don't really invest in you in any kind of way, then why are you so concerned what they may think of you or what they may think of your life? He has millions of dollars and he is like, I'd rather just be real and show you everything that's going on instead of just showing you what a famous artist looked like and that kind of lifestyle. Because though that may be motivational for some, or even let's say most, that's not something that really connects with people on a regular day basis. That is more something like, man, I wish I had that. Man, that could be me one day. But not necessarily of like, yo, this really could be me because I've gone through this. I lived in that kind of lifestyle. I've talked this way, or I went through some parent issues, or I went through depression. You get a different type of loyalty. You get a different type of reputation when you live your truth instead of playing this fake kind of vibe for a platform that could possibly end in 2.3 seconds. Let a server or let Instagram, Facebook, whatever your platform is, crash forever. What are you going to do? You wasted all your time to live a certain lifestyle, and now real life hits. What now?
It's real.
That's just that's just my take on it. Like I love that he says, you know what, I don't want to live a perfect life, whether on or off social media, because that's not real. And so I'm gonna show that. And I hope other people do not feel pressured to be a certain kind of way, because I believe our viewers and listeners truly are trying to figure out how to brand themselves and how to grow. So it's not a matter of like, okay, I already know I have to live just like them, right? But not feeling embarrassed to live your truth is what I only ask our listeners to do. Like, do not feel embarrassed that maybe you didn't really have anything to post that day, and so you just show your surroundings. That's good enough for somebody, because somebody else is also at home cooped up. There's somebody else who also has a blank page in their notebook and not really sure what to write. So I just hope our listeners just take that and run with it and understand that authenticity is what wins this game for the long run than necessarily spending money and having this image of being perfect.